They did a very low-key, poor traditional marriage, and all the villagers laughed at them to scum, especially the ladies he had asked out. Their marriage became a thing of mockery. The village of Okoroba was a small, close-knit community where news traveled fast and gossip thrived. In this village, there lived a man named Jabulani. Jabulani was a simple farmer. He planted crops and cleared people's farms to survive. His family was so poor that even the poor in the village called them poor. Their home was an old, dilapidated mud house with a thatched roof that leaked whenever it rained. He was the only child of Grandma and Grandpa Moyo. In his entire lifetime, all Grandpa Moyo had achieved was an old bicycle, which he still rides along the dusty village paths. Grandpa Moyo was nearly 85 years old, but was very strong and smart and still goes to the farm. His wrinkled hands bore the marks of years of toil under the scorching sun. He was a very poor man, but was always a cheerful old man, known for his wise sayings and hearty laughter. He believed his son wouldn't end up poor like him, even though he didn't know how. Some days Jabulani would cry, looking at their very old house, his parents, and the fact that he couldn't do anything to help their situation at the moment killed him the most. The sight of his frail mother struggling to prepare their meager meals pained him deeply. He couldn't even further his school, but stopped at high school. The weight of their poverty often bore down on his shoulders like a heavy burden, but Grandpa would encourage him and tell him, "You would be a great man someday, son. Just do what you're doing. Don't stain your hands. Let your conscience be pure and keep working hard. One day, it will be your turn to shine." These words kept Jabulani going. Each time he felt like giving up, he remembered his father's words, and he would have a sense of hope to continue. "Son, you know there's hope in a living dog than a dead lion," Grandpa would often ask him, and he would answer, "Yes, Papa." At the age of 28, Jabulani wanted a wife, but no one wanted him. All the ladies in the village laughed at him. "Can you even pay my bride price? Even though you work for a whole year, you would never come close," they would say. Some would call him poor and wretched and mock him, saying, "Will you sell your father's old bicycle to pay my bride price?" He couldn't have a girlfriend because no one wanted to date him. One day, while returning from the farm, he met a very beautiful woman from Okoroba. She had dark, glowing skin and deep, expressive eyes. She was an orphan. She didn't have friends. She was also the only child of her late parents. She had nothing but an old sewing machine that she had inherited from her late mother. With it, she mended people's clothes to survive, as she also fed from their small farm. Though Jabulani was from a poor home, Zola's case was worse than his. She lived in a tiny mud hut at the edge of the village, often going days with little to eat. They quickly became friends, as they had both been isolated. Finally, seeing someone they could talk to was a relief. Jabulani quickly asked Zola to marry him. "I want to see your relatives," Jabulani said. But Zola said, "I don't have any relatives that I know of. It has always been me and my parents before they passed on. I have an elderly couple who lives close to my house. They are like my parents. They've really been encouraging. I'll talk to them to stand for me as my parents." "Oh, that's fine," Jabulani said. So they did a very low-key, poor traditional marriage, and all the villagers laughed at them to scum, especially the ladies he had asked out. Their marriage became a thing of mockery. People would say they can only marry each other. They are perfect. Poverty plus poverty equals abject poverty. They would laugh loudly, pointing at their humble home. Jabulani and Zola didn't care. They were happy. Whether people called them names, it didn't bother them. What mattered to them was that they were married and happy with each other. They were always together, going to the farm and market together. Some elderly villagers admired their love, but those young women kept humiliating and mocking them. One sunny day, Jabulani was weeding his farm as usual. He was working very hard when he encountered a strong tree with very, very deep roots. The tree had been there for decades, its gnarled roots gripping the earth stubbornly. He tried to pull the tree out while weeding, but he couldn't. Jabulani decided to dig around the roots. He dug and dug, but it seemed the roots went deeper and deeper. His hands were calloused and sweat dripped from his brow. He was tired, but something inside said to him, "Keep digging." So Jabulani kept digging. He saw something shining from the roots. His heart pounded with excitement. He kept digging and found a big shiny diamond, larger than any stone he had ever seen. He quickly covered it with clothes and put it inside his stool bag. Then he pulled out the tree and ran home, his mind racing with possibilities. Jabulani ran straight to his father, his heart pounding with excitement. The tiny mud house was dimly lit by a small oil lamp, casting flickering shadows on the walls. Jabulani showed the diamond to his father. His father's eyes widened in shock and happiness. "Do you know what this is, son?" "It's a diamond," his father said, his voice shaking with emotion. "But we must not tell anyone. Let it remain within the walls of this house. Son, do you know what this means? This is a fortune if we sell it." Jabulani didn't really know the worth of the diamond, but Grandpa knew. He had heard stories of diamonds but never imagined holding one in his own hands. "Very early tomorrow morning, we're going to the city to see my friend, Mr. Tony, who's a goldsmith. He will help us check if it's a real diamond or not. Tony is a good man, and he won't cheat us." That night, Grandpa called Mr. Tony and explained everything to him over their old crackling telephone, and they arranged to meet the next day. Early the next morning, Jabulani and his father set out for the city. The journey was long and bumpy, with dust from the untarred roads clinging to their clothes. When Mr. Tony saw the diamond, he screamed, "This is worth billions!" They all screamed in excitement. Mr. Tony said, "I know a very rich man who's into buying and selling of pure gold, diamonds, and all manner of precious stones. He'll buy it." That night, Jabulani and Grandpa Moyo stayed in Mr. Tony's house, a small but well-furnished home filled with various gold ornaments. They spent the night discussing and making plans. They were very excited. The next day, they went to the rich man's house, a grand mansion with high gates and marble floors. The rich man was very happy when he saw the diamond. He knew it was a real one, and so he bought the diamond quickly and paid them a huge amount of money. Jabulani and his family became billionaires in one day. With the help of Mr. Tony, they bought a beautiful house in the city. The house had high ceilings, luxurious furniture, and a large garden filled with flowers. Jabulani went back to the village to bring his wife and mother to their new home in the city. Zola was sent to a big fashion school in the city. She worked tirelessly, pouring her heart into her designs. After 1 year and 6 months, She graduated as the best student and started her own fashion house. Many apprentices came to learn from her, inspired by her story. Jabulani also started a furniture business. He had always loved the furniture business, but he never had the money to start it. Now, he was very successful at it, crafting some of the finest furniture in the city. One day, Jabulani's father said to him, "My son, we are old and not used to this city life. We want to go back to our village and live in our house. That's where we belong, and that's where we belong, and that's where we want to be buried. You and your wife can stay in the city, but please, when we join our ancestors, don't abandon the village. Visit the house with your children. Don't isolate it." Jabulani replied, "I've heard you, Papa, but you're not going back to that old house. Give me 3 months so we can transform the house." The building started, and the villagers were surprised. Nobody knew what was happening. The construction workers labored day and night, and in 3 months, Jabulani built a beautiful mansion in the village for his parents. It was the finest house in Okoroba, with large glass windows, polished floors, and a compound big enough for celebrations. When they arrived in the village, they came in a very beautiful jeep. The entire village was in awe. The maidens who had mocked Jabulani shouted in shock and regret. "Shy, it's not good to write anybody off," they said. "God can change anybody." Jabulani and his wife spent a week with his parents in the village before returning to the city. They took good care of Grandpa and Grandma, sending them a weekly allowance. His parents never worked again and lived happily, enjoying the comfort of their new home. 5 years later, they died peacefully at a good old age. As they had promised, Jabulani and his family visited the village every year, especially during Christmas. The mansion stood tall as a symbol of their journey from rags to riches. They employed someone to take care of the house in the village, ensuring it remained in perfect condition, and so they lived. The moral of the story is never write anybody off. As long as there's life, there's hope. You didn't create any man, so you can't make him. God created the entire universe in 6 days. He doesn't need 10 years to bless a man. He can lift a man up when you least expect. You can sleep a poor man today and wake up a rich man tomorrow. That is the kind of God we serve. He is the lifter of men. I hope you enjoyed watching as much as I enjoyed creating. Don't forget to like, share, and comment. And if you've not subscribed yet, please subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you'll be notified each time we make a new post. Stay tuned for more exciting stories. I'll see you in my next video. Bye. In the village of Guru lived a popular food vendor called Leela. Leela was a beautiful woman, popularly known in the village for her delicious and tasty meals. She had a food store at the village markets, adorned with vibrant red and yellow curtains that fluttered in the wind. Leela was very proud of her cooking and always wanted to make sure she's the best cook in the whole village. Everyone sang praises of how tasty Elle's food was, and she had customers trooping in and out from every part of the village, including women, children, and most especially married men. You know the secret and strange thing about Elle's food? The secret is that whenever a married man tastes Elle's food, they will never want to have a taste of their wife's meal at home. They all gathered every day at Elle's restaurant to eat her food, seated on wooden benches under the shade of a giant baobab tree. Almost all the married men in the village prefer El's food to their wife's food. Most times, when their wives serve them food at home, they will say, "No, I cannot eat this food. This food is not as delicious as El's own. You have to learn how to cook like El because I cannot be eating poison when El's restaurant is there." This continued to happen in almost all the households in the village. All the married men no longer ate their wives' food. They now preferred El's own for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. This was causing a lot of misunderstandings in their homes. The men even went as far as telling their wives to go to El to learn how to cook from her because they wondered how to cook from her, because they wondered how El made her meals so tasty and delicious. The wives of these married men could no longer take it anymore, and they decided to have a meeting to find out what they could do to make their husbands come back to them and start eating their meals. As they gathered in the village streets, they started asking each other, "What do you think we should do, my fellow women?" "I think we should go and find out what Leela uses in her meal, that our husbands no longer eat from us," one woman said, adjusting her headscarf nervously. Another woman suggested that Elle might have a secret ingredient that she uses for cooking and that they should go and spy on her. After deliberating for some time, they decided that spying on her was not the solution. What they would do instead was go to Elle's restaurant and humbly beg her to please stop serving their husband's food whenever they visited her restaurant. They all agreed to beg Elle, and so they headed to Elle's restaurant to speak with her. When they arrived at Elle's restaurant, they started to speak to Elle, and one of the women said, "Elle, please, we are here to beg you. We are here to beg you. We know you know how to cook very well. You are the best cook in the village. We are not doubting that. But please, we are here to beg you to please stop serving our husbands your meals. Whenever our husbands come to your restaurant, please can you direct them back home to eat our meals instead? Our husbands no longer eat from us, and it is affecting our marriages. We have come to you as women to please help us in this situation." Elle responded, "What do you mean by that? Are you saying I should chase away my customers because you want your husbands to eat in your house? Am I the one that said you shouldn't know how to cook? Did I drag your husbands to my restaurant to eat my food? Please, if you don't have anything meaningful to say, leave my restaurant. I am a very busy person." The women continued to plead with Elle, but she chased them all away, telling them to go and look for how they could hold their husbands and not come back to disturb her again. The women left Elle's restaurant feeling so frustrated and disappointed. They were helpless and didn't know what to do. So they decided to all go back home, hoping that one day the secret to Elle's meal would be revealed and their husbands would come back to them. Elle's business continued to flourish with more and more customers trooping in and out, to the extent that almost all the men now gathered at her restaurant every day. A particular married woman in the village called Marie, whose marriage was not even up to 6 months, started having issues in her home. Do you know why? Because her husband had started eating Elle's meal. From the very first day her husband tasted Elle's food, he no longer ate his wife's meal anymore. The woman was wondering what could be going on, and she decided to go see her father in the neighboring village to tell her father everything that had been happening. She said to herself, "I cannot take this anymore. My marriage is not even up to 6 months now, and my husband no longer eats my food. I will talk to my father to help me." The thing is that Marie's father is a spiritualist who has the power to foresee things, and so Marie set out to the neighboring village to speak with her father. When she got there, she said to her father, When she got there, she said to her father, "Baba, your daughter is not happy. My husband no longer eats my food. There's a popular food vendor in the village of Guru that my husband now enjoys eating from, and this is causing a problem in my marriage. Baba, please help your daughter." Marie's father set to work immediately. He consulted his oracle and saw that Leela was a strong case to handle, so he decided to visit the restaurant himself. Marie's father arrived at Elle's restaurant, and immediately his eyes locked onto Elle's smile, and he knew that Elle was aware of who he was. Elle said to Marie's father, "Ah, Baba, you are welcome to my restaurant. You are just in time for a special treat. My food is the most delicious in the village." Elle held a steaming bowl of her famous food, and Marie's father's stomach growled in anticipation. His mouth was watering, and he wanted to have a taste of this food that had a beautiful aroma, but he knew better than to accept her offer. Marie's father said to her, "You are Lila, right? I need to speak with you." Elle responded with a smile, "Of course, Baba. I am always happy to help. But first, let me offer you a bowl of this, my delicious food. Once you taste my food, you will never remain the same again." Baba said to her, "The main reason why I am here is for you to confess, Elle. You know what you have been doing in this village, and I am here to make sure your secret is exposed. If you don't make an attempt to confess, you will regret it." Elle started being harsh to Marie's father and said to him, "Baba, I don't know what you're talking about. In this restaurant, all we do here is sell delicious food. I'm sure you must have heard about me by now, so I don't know what you're saying. Don't come to my store to accuse me wrongly. If you want to eat, please eat. And if you don't want to eat, don't spoil my business. Just get up and leave." Marie's father responded, "Elle, I am warning you for the last time. You are causing so much pain in marriages through your food. Men no longer eat their wives' food. Confess now before I make it an open case." Elle responded, "You are just being too paranoid, old man. What is all this talk about me holding people's husbands? Am I the one that told their wives not to know how to cook? I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about." Marie's father saw how stubborn Elle was and decided to do a silent incantation to get Elle to confess. Immediately, he touched Elle, and Elle started screaming, shouting, "I am sorry, I am sorry, I am sorry. Yes, 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 I will confess, I will confess. I've been using my menstrual flow to make meals to get all the married men in the village to like only my food. This is what happened." And Elle started narrating the reason why she started using her menstrual flow. Elle narrated that long ago, in that same village, she was a lady in her late 30s looking for a husband. All the suitors that came for her turned her down because of her size. The most painful part was that all the younger, slim girls in the village started mocking her. The worst incident that made her decide to do this evil was that one day a suitor came to ask for her hand in marriage. When the suitor arrived, all of a sudden he decided not to marry Elle anymore, but instead chose a slim girl in that same crowd. Instead of the villagers supporting her, they started mocking her, telling her that she was cursed and could never get a husband who would love her. Because of this, she decided to visit a spiritualist who told her to use her menstrual flow in a local pot and add it to the meals she cooked every day. Any married man in the village who came across her meal would never taste their wife's meal again, except for hers. That was how she started using her menstrual flow as a secret ingredient in cooking. That is why most of the married men in the village of Garu no longer eat their wives' food, but instead eat El's food. After confessing, she started pleading with the villagers to please forgive her. She said that she was frustrated and pained, which was why she went into this evil act. The villagers were so mad at El, and they started chasing her, saying they would burn her, and that she should never step foot in the village of Garu again. El was banished from the village of Garu or Garu. That was how the secret of El's meals was exposed. The moral of this story is that we should all be careful of what we eat and where we eat, especially if we are not sure of the source of that meal. Secondly, we shouldn't repay evil for evil. Everything in this life has its time, and we should always wait for God's appointed time. We shouldn't fight back with evil because we are pained or frustrated. Thank you for spending time with me on this storytelling journey. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to hit subscribe and join our growing community. Here's your unique takeaway for today. Let kindness and patience guide your path. Until next time, stay curious and stay inspired. Bye for now. In the darkest hour of one Saturday night in Latte Kingdom, a set of twins were born, two beautiful girls born into the family of Papa and Mama Adora King. The night was cold, and the only sound that could be heard was the soft chirping of crickets. A gentle breeze rustled through the trees, adding a serene touch to the atmosphere. Their father was a successful gold merchant that traded far and wide. He named the newborn twins Zara and Lila. As the twins grew, there was a great physical difference between them, despite the fact that they were fed the same meal and ate at the same time. Yet, the twin named Zara looked too thin, skinny, and tall, while Lila, the other twin, looked chubby. As they grew older, Zara became the object of mockery for everyone in the village because of her figure. They called her horrible names like skeleton or jagbe, which means thin fish, and she would often cry back home, where her parents always did their best to pacify her. Mama Adora would hug her tightly, whispering comforting words, while Papa Adora would try to cheer her up with small gifts like her favorite sweets or flowers from the garden. Even her twin sister Lila would also give her words of encouragement. No one wanted to be Zara's friend. Most social groups in the village rejected her, and the few groups that accepted her used every chance they got to humiliate her or laugh at her until she got tired, fed up, and stopped attending their meetings. Lila, her twin sister, on the other hand, had so many friends and was a member of various social groups in the village. The only thing that kept Zara sane in all of this madness was her cooking skills. She was a really wonderful cook, to the extent that whenever she prepared food for her family, everyone ended up licking their plates and praising her for the delicious meal. Her home was really the safe haven for her, where she would often find solace in the cozy kitchen, filled with the scent of herbs and spices. But whenever she stepped out of the house, the wolves in the form of villagers were always there to ridicule her for being skinny, especially whenever she and her twin sister went to the market. People started to compare, whisper, and gossip and start to stare. One sunny afternoon, the twins headed to the market to get some food ingredients. The marketplace was bustling with activity, with traders shouting out their wares and children running around, playing games. The aroma of fresh produce and spices filled the air, adding to the lively atmosphere. Lila, why did you suck Zara's blood? The fish seller said, her voice dripping with mockery, while she pointed at Zara with a sardonic grin. A fish seller said this while giggling hard, and everyone in the market joined in laughing. Watch out for the strong wind tomorrow, Zara, so you don't lose your balance. Another person added. Zara was so sad and dejected, she couldn't even utter a word. You should all be ashamed of yourselves, Lila fired back angrily at them. Most of you have children, and if you don't, it must be because you are too bitter to have one. But I am sure you have siblings, yet you behave like fools. Zara was so happy her twin sister had her back. Lila would always stand up for Zara against these mean bullies until one day, Lila's boyfriend named Jalen came visiting. Jalen is the son of a famous cocoa farmer, and he had been in a love relationship with Lila for the past 2 years. He came to inform her that they wouldn't be getting married anymore because his family was not in support of their union. Why am I not good enough for you? Lila and I not good enough for you? Lila asked Jalen in tears. You know you are perfect, but my parents fear your twin sister's skinny genes might manifest in our children if we get married. Lila couldn't believe her ears. Her world came crashing down, and she began to resent her twin sister. She spent sleepless nights staring at the ceiling, with tears streaming down her face, wondering why fate had dealt her this cruel hand. She was still crying herself to sleep every night when she was also sent out of all her social groups because people didn't like how she stood up for her skinny twin sister. Lila blamed all these woes and misfortunes on her sister Zara and decided she was going to make her life miserable. One day, Zara cooked a delicious meal for the house, like she always did, her heart full of hope that the family would enjoy her cooking. But as she stepped out for a moment, Lila came into the kitchen, her face twisted in anger, and poured sand into the pot of food her sister had just made. Zara looked confused. Why did you do that? She screamed. Shut your mouth, skinny witch, Lila fired back. The following week, Zara fetched a bucket of water and left it in the bathroom to go into her room and get herself changed before having a bath. The bathroom was dimly lit, with a small window allowing a sliver of sunlight to filter in, creating a calm, serene ambience. Lila sneaked into the bathroom and poured something into her sister's bathing water, unknowingly to Zara. She returned and took a bath with the contaminated water. She started to itch all over. She scratched herself so badly and screamed loudly. Her parents had to rub her body with palm oil before the itching reduced. Lila was laughing all through, which made Zara realize her twin sister had done this to her. Unlike before, when she stood up for her sister in public, now whenever they went to the market, Lila would loudly call Zara a skinny skeleton in the presence of everyone to make them see and hear that she was done standing up for her. This made Zara so sad, and she cried day and night. Their parents would scold Lila and warn her to desist from humiliating Zara. She is your twin sister, for crying out loud. I didn't raise you to be this way, their mother would say. But still Lila felt no remorse and refused to listen. Zara destroyed my life, the love of my life. Galen left me because of this thin stick, Lila shouted. Their mother, who couldn't believe what she just said, got so angry and slapped Lila hard on the cheek. It was mockery and humiliation every day for Zara, from her twin sister and the entire village. But there came a time when the twins' village, known as Latte Kingdom, and 2 other neighboring kingdoms named Mockery and Boar were preparing for a once-in-a-decade contest called the Queen Maiden Competition. For this competition, each kingdom was supposed to put forward three of their most capable, competitive, and beautiful maidens to represent the kingdom. The villagers in Latte started projecting the names of the three maidens they liked or thought would represent their kingdom in the Queen Maiden competition. Some even jokingly mentioned Zara's name, and they all laughed mockingly. One of them added, "Who will put a skeleton forward to represent you humans?" And they all laughed again. One of the other kingdoms would be hosting this year's competition because Latte hosted the last one. One quiet afternoon, Zara went to fetch water at the village stream. The air was filled with the sound of birds singing. It was there she met a man called Adio, who was sitting on a large rock by the water, sketching the scene before him. Adio is one of the organizers of the Queen Maiden competition from the neighboring kingdom hosting this year's contest. But Zara didn't know this. Immediately he saw Zara. He was so thrilled and amazed by her stature. "What beauty is this?" he said to Zara. "You are blessed with a lovely figure that many people would kill for," Adio added. Zara looked so confused hearing these words. She felt he was just being sarcastic. But Adio was looking really thrilled, and he told her he was in their village to get the names of the three maidens that would be representing them in the upcoming competition. "I am sure your name would be on the list because you look fit for the competition," Adio said confidently. But Zara told him that that was not going to happen because everyone hated her in the village and wouldn't even think of recommending her for such a competition. She also said that aside from her parents, he was the first person to ever think of her stature as good. Everyone else called her skeleton and other bad names. Adio was shocked to hear this and persuaded her to dress well and make sure to come watch the competition, even if she wasn't going to partake. Zara hesitated at first, but later agreed to show up on the day of the competition. The other two kingdoms, Latte and Mockery, traveled down to the palace of the host kingdom, Boar, where the competition would take place. The twins and their parents were also present, all looking radiant and elegant. After the three girls representing each kingdom in the competition were called out, the organizers announced that there would be an additional contestant sponsored by the host king himself. One of the privileges the host king enjoys in the Queen Maiden competition is the power to add one more maiden as one of the contestants. Everyone was eager to know the lucky maiden that would be joining the other 9 contestants. The organizers then called out the name of Zara as the chosen contestant sponsored by the king to join the other maidens. She was so shocked. Her fellow villagers were also confused, shocked, and jealous of this. Even Lila, her twin sister, was so angry about this. "What will a drumstick be useful for in this contest?" Lila mumbled to herself, but all of them couldn't do anything to stop it. Zara's parents were also happy for their girl and started clapping hard, cheering her on. Zara, still in shock, hesitated to step out at first, but her parents kept clapping, and this boosted her confidence. She stepped out, looking so tall and elegant. She had dressed so elegantly and with grace as well as she joined the other 9 maidens. The competition began, and the first stage was the cooking contest. The competing maidens were all tasked with cooking traditional dishes. Zara, who already had superb culinary skills, finished preparing a meal quickly. It was like a walk in the park for her. The judges tasted the meals cooked by the 10 maidens, and announced the 5 maidens who did so well and would be proceeding to the next stage of the competition. It was no surprise to hear Zara as one of the 5 victors. After all, she is a good cook who made delicious meals all ready for her family before the contest. The second stage was about finding a treasure that was hidden in the forest, and the first maiden to return with the hidden treasure would be crowned the Queen Maiden of the 3 kingdoms. But there was a clause. The 5 maidens had to swim across a river to get to the forest where the treasure was hidden. Many of the maidens couldn't swim fast enough, but Zara could swim a lot faster because she was fit and therefore had light weight. She was the fastest swimmer. She got into the forest and started searching all over for the treasure. She searched, and 15 minutes in, she was still searching. Another maiden named Amira finished swimming and proceeded to the forest. She saw Zara and also started searching for the treasure. A few minutes later, Zara looked in a direction in the bush and saw a blue shiny treasure. "That must be it!" she screamed, forgetting it was a competition. The other maiden, Amira, heard this and raced over to the treasure's direction. It turned into a running competition because now Zara had to catch up. Both of them ran, but unfortunately for Zara, her cloth was hooked by a tree branch and she fell to the ground. Amira got to the treasure before her, but something unexpected happened. Zara, still on the floor, saw a lot of other blue treasures in the bushes. They looked just like the first one she saw, and this made something click in Zara's head. These blue treasures were a bunch of distractions from the real treasure they had come to find. Zara stood up and wanted to tell Amira, the other maiden, but she learned from her previous mistake and decided to keep this discovery to herself. Amira, on the other hand, raced back to the riverbank with the fake treasure and told the 3 other maidens she had found the treasure. They believed her and felt they already lost the competition, so together they swam back to the kingdom. Zara, still searching the forest, felt water drip on her from above. She looked up and saw a golden box on a tree. It sparkled so much, and this convinced Zara it was the real treasure they were looking for. Because of her tall figure, she climbed the tree easily and carried the golden box. She opened it and saw several other colors of those blue treasures she had seen in the bushes. She closed the box and journeyed back to the palace. Zara got to the palace, and every single eye was on her. She looked so tired, carrying the big box of treasure. Immediately she got to the rest of the contestants, including Amira, who was looking at her with so much envy. The organizers unveiled the drawing of the treasure the maidens were supposed to return with, and to Zara's fellow villagers' surprise, Zara came back with the exact treasure. She was declared the winner, crowned, and named the Queen Maiden of the 3 kingdoms. She was also given lots of treasures such as gold, clothes, and a house of her own. The villagers were shocked, but had to admit it. They all started showing Zara fake affection and apologizing for how they treated her. Her parents were overjoyed, and Lila, her twin sister, felt so ashamed and didn't know what to say to her. When they returned home, remembering how much she humiliated her twin sister, Lila decided she would pack her things and leave the house because she was so ashamed of herself. But Zara stopped her. "Why would you leave your family?" Zara asked. Lila started crying. I am so sorry for how I treated you, Zara. You are my twin sister, but I treated you like an animal. I prefer to please outsiders than my own flesh and blood. Let me just leave. This shame is too much for me to bear. Lila cried out loud. Lila, I can never hate you. We came to this world through our mother's womb on the same day.